Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Our Life. Today, we are hopping into one that's maybe not so much adventurous, but it's still a good one. So
Today we're
let's
doing
hop into this.
tasks.
Let's see how this goes. Another placid summer day was drifting by your daydreams. We're chasing each other, none sticking around long enough to become a firm plan, but you really didn't mind that right now. A distant sound drew your thoughts away. You realized it was the front door knocking, or rather, someone knocking on it. You descended the stairs, casually checking the door, finding Cove standing outside.
Hey.
Hi. Cove's voice came out quiet, with a strangely pleased smile on his face. Hey, what's up? Cove opened his mouth to respond, only to have his phone vibrate, cutting him off. You took It took you off guard as well. Both your eyes tracked down to where it was resting, and then you exchanged a look. It's okay, you can answer. I'll wait. You nodded and rushed to dig the phone out. You smiled when you saw who was actually calling you. It's Miranda.
Cool.
Oh, cool. Can I say hi too? With a nod, you accepted the call and set it to speaker. Hi, Miranda. Hi. There was something off about her tone. Cove met your gaze, and you saw the same confusion in his
Have you
expression.
heard from Terry?
Have you heard from Terry at all? Or did you hear about her from Cove? Huh? No, she hasn't called me, but Cove is with me right now. Hey. Oh, hi, Cove. It's that what you were going to say? He shook his head before realizing that it wasn't a good enough answer when one person couldn't actually see it.
No.
No, Terry hasn't called me today either. Is something wrong? At that, Miranda couldn't hold herself together any longer. Muffled sobs from the other side of the line were unmistakable. Terry doesn't like me anymore. If she ever did. What? That doesn't sound right. You're probably her best friend out of all of us. Yeah, why do you think that? She sniffed. She sniffled, and there was a pause as you could hear her shift the phone to the other hand. Terry was here the other night watching movies with me, and we were super late. She realized her parents were probably went to bed, so they couldn't pick her up. My mom and dad were definitely asleep then. Dad works really early. I tried telling her it was okay to just spend the night and she could text her parents what happened, but Terry really didn't want to. You glanced over at Cove. He looked equally unsure as you about where story was going. It didn't sound like a friendship ending situation. I suggested things to make it easier if she was nervous, like she could sleep by herself in my room while I stayed somewhere else. Yeah. I said we didn't have to sleep at all. We could have kept watching movies until one of our parents woke up, so I wouldn't have minded. I know not everyone can do sleepovers, but Terry wouldn't even tell me what was really wrong or what I could do to help. I thought we could tell each other anything. I guess I was wrong. She didn't stay in the end?
No.
Did she stay in the end? No, we got too loud in the kitchen and my dad woke up. He offered to drive her home when he heard what was wrong. She texted me apologizing for my dad having to do that when he needed a rest, but that was it. She isn't talking to me anymore. You could hear every bit of tears and heartbreak in Miranda's voice. This continued to be a shock for you, your neighbor, but be a shock for your neighbor. But Cove recovered and spoke gently. I'm really sorry.
I mean,
There's no way Terry wanted to make you feel this bad, or that she's just done with your friendship because of this. Miranda sniffling continued. You hope she had plenty of tissues handy. It'll be okay. No, Terry's alright. It's really weird that she reacted like that. It's not a big deal, honestly. I weren't sure what to say. It'll be okay. It had to be. You couldn't imagine any alternatives. Miranda's voice sounded a little bit more collected after finishing her story, but you knew that the crying was far from being done. I thought she'd have reached out to one of you by now. Maybe she's not talking to anybody? Yeah. Sorry for bothering you and Cove about this. Apology accepted. Don't worry about it.
right.
You're right. You can tell us things. Thank you. Her shaking voice finally conveyed a little optimism, or at least relief that she wasn't dealing with it entirely on her
Is
own.
that all right?
If you do hear from her or anything, could you let me know if she's alright? We can. Thanks. Let's talk later, okay? Bye. 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 That didn't really seem like an especially productive point to end the call. You also weren't sure where to go from here. Looking to Cove, his face seemed as lost as yours. With no alternative, you hung up and put your phone back in your pocket. Cove crossed his arms, a frown creasing his face. He began to pace back and forth along your porch, clearly trying to put the pieces together in his head in a way that made sense. You were worried. You felt pretty confident about things, but it sounded like trouble to you. You weren't sure how to act. It'll be fine. It was no fun hearing Miranda so sad, and you could definitely empathize, but right now there was no reason to get worked up. It was only a matter of time until Terry reached out to someone and you were sure her side of things would clear it up. The empty state of your head before learning this was not helping you now. You couldn't put two thoughts together and found yourself just staring into space. We should probably try calling Terry. Cove's voice managed to drag you back to some grounding. He stopped pacing, but you still saw a perturbed look on his face. Is it really something we should get involved with right now? Cove's mouth pressed into a hard line. At the moment, it seemed like the two of you were on very different wavelengths as to how to deal with this.
Come on.
I want to talk to Terry. She's my friend too. Fine, then let's call her. Cove looked away and pulled his phone out. You went over and stood at his side as he was dialing. Cove let it ring and ring and ring and ring. Terry didn't answer. There wasn't even an option to leave a voice message. Your shoulders slumped, and Cove looked even more troubled, as if that was possible. He turned to you as if for some lifeline. Could you try calling? I'm gonna text just like, hey, I was trying to reach you. Call me or something. Yeah. You took your phone once more. Unfortunately, after another set of interminable rings, the line went dead. No answer, no voicemail. Hanging up, you saw Cove visibly deflate and rub to his arms, eye distant, opening, struggling with the whole affair. I don't like this at all. They're fighting. We barely know anything, and we're supposed to just wait and see? Despite it only being a minute since he texted Terry, Cove checked his phone again. He was desperate for progress, for something, and you frowned as you watched him. You need to try and relax. You're making me anxious. There's no way Terry has answered you. They're gonna get over it, you know. You stay silent. They're gonna get over it, you know. Cove stared hard at the screen as though he was trying to will a new message to appear. As your words sank in, he harshly stared at you, not impressed with that response. His continued glaring didn't stop you from completing the thought. We know them. Whatever is wrong with Terry, we'll all get past it. Closing his eyes, he took a deep breath. He then sighed, and his shoulders dropped down with it. Yeah, you're probably right. That's the spirit. Cove was still gripping his phone, with both hands as though it might fly away if he let go. He looked to you, almost painful earnest. What do we even say if we do hear from one of them? His pacing resumed, and tempted to answer his own question. We should probably tell them to talk to each other instead of only us, maybe? He slowly came to another halt, like a gear winding down. We should find out Terry's side of the story. We should just comfort Miranda and let up with Terry. I don't know. We should only tell them to work it out between themselves. He wondered why you always had to come up with things. You didn't say anything. We should find out Terry's side of the story. Nothing could be done until you knew what she thought of this. That much was certain. Cove nodded slightly in agreement. For several minutes, both of you remained there in silence, drowning in your thoughts. Eventually, Cove turned around. I'm going to text Terry that we already know what's going on. Maybe she'll have an easier time talking to us because she won't have to pretend to or explain. Yeah, that might be the only way to get her attention. You can't do that. Miranda didn't say it was all right to admit she talked to us. You felt to everyone to say, I think you're probably pushing too much. That's not a good idea, Cove. Not at all. Why are you so fixated on this? Yeah, that's probably the only way to get her attention. With the two of you on the same page, he steeled his gaze, prepared for taking this next step. Cove's fingers worked furiously, yet carefully. He was giving his full attention to his words. You slid up next to him and looked, trying to watch what he was writing. Cove rapidly typed out, Hey, Ari and I really want to talk to you. Miranda told us what happened. Please reply back. And sent. It was done. Well, we'll just have to wait and see what happens now. Quietly felt nervous. I wished you weren't so concerned with everyone else's feelings but mine. And it'll definitely be alright. Cove's things are okay. Yeah, hopefully she'll get back to us pretty soon. Great, we can do something else now. You're being dramatic. Great, hopefully she'll get back to us soon. Me too. From just his face, you could tell that wasn't going to do much for him. He was still going to be stuck thinking about this until Terry replied. A small noise escaped his lips, but the frustration at the situation crumbled away from his face, and he spoke softly. Thanks, Ari. I'm glad it's not just me with all this happening. Cove took one last look at his phone and then put it away. His efforts at a smile were meager but earnest.
It's okay.
We can just forget about it for a while. Terry will talk to us when she wants to. You smiled just a bit. Finally, that sounds good to me. I'd like to be alone for a while. Could you leave? He simply nodded. That sounds good to me. And you meant it, exhaling some of your own concerns away. The last thing you wanted to do was fight with Cove. An awkward silence grew between you both when you turned and pointed at your door. We don't have to stand around here. We can go inside. Cove's eyes lit up, like he'd been waiting for you to say that. Together you headed inside. Hey, Ari, and hi there, Cove. Ma followed right after, hearing the greeting her wife had just given. Mom's eyebrows raised when you and Cove shared a look. What's going on? We're okay. It's just Miranda called earlier and she and Terry are fighting, but none of us know what's going on with Terry. Your parents exchanged a meaningful look, though its meaning was lost on you.
I'm so sorry.
That's too bad. I'm sorry. There's trouble with your friend, sweetie. Is there anything we can do to help? Out of the corner of your eye, you saw Cove rove his arm awkwardly, unable to add anything. No, we're just waiting to see if Terry calls or texts or Miranda does. We can at least help you take your mind off things while you're waiting.
Yeah.
Another great idea, Lenny. We can get the whole gang together for some quality time. Mom gave you a soft smile and added, This'll be good, especially since it might help make up for what happened at the farmer's market. Yeah, it'll be wonderful. I'll go see what Liz is up to right now. Excited, she fluttered a few steps away and then stopped. She pivoted on her heels and raised a single finger, flashing a big smile at
It's
Cove.
no trouble.
And of course, Cliff will be welcome too. Knowing your family was always there for you, that couldn't be underestimated. In fact, it meant everything to you, and your moms cared so much. Thanks, moms. Yeah, thanks. That's nice of you.
You're welcome.
You're both very welcome. Don't sweat it. Not so, kiddos. Leave everything to us. Just relax and we'll call you when it's all together. You nodded and your moms disappeared for now, springing into action for their impromptu get-together. Turning to Cove, you motioned with your hand for him to follow. You are going to wait. You might as well be in your room. Let's go upstairs. Sure. You flopped down on your bed, feeling like you could sink into and disappear. Cove, meanwhile, took a spot on a chair off to the side. You sighed at the same time, and Cove's mouth pulled into a bent smile. At that, he gave his phone another quick check and his eyebrows furrowed. Still nothing? Yep, this is crap, huh? Yeah. Cove chewed the inside of his cheek as if to mimic the stress that was clearly eating away at him. Cove, what's wrong? What's really wrong? One disagreement doesn't make you act like this. That got a pointed pause in his movement. Cove was carefully trying to put his thoughts together. He spoke in a fragile voice. When people you care about, when they're unhappy with each other, there's nothing you can do. At least when you're in a fight yourself, you have some responsibility, some control over it all. I wish it didn't have to happen, but that isn't possible, so, oh well, I guess. His attempts at giving a nonchalant shrug after was pitiable. Yeah, it makes me feel horrible too. True, but you're right, it can't be helped. It's whatever. Other people can do whatever they want, right? You stayed silent. It can't be helped.
I know.
I know. He replied like he could barely muster the strength to speak. Well, we just have to focus on the things we can impact, or at least try. You turned to Cove, hoping your eyes conveyed the message. You were feeling better that your words, his gentle nod told you that they did. There was a question you had to ask. Have you had to deal with people fighting a lot? Cove couldn't meet your eye. A ghost of a smile crossed his lips, but it was almost gone before you could see it. His eyes grew very far away. Yeah, with my parents, before they split up and everything. Despite knowing him for so many years, Cove had never spoken of the years before he moved to Sunset Bird, before his parents separated in any detail. He whispered his thoughts distantly, almost unconcerned with whether you could hear them or not. They used to fight all the time. I think they got along when I was a baby. I mean, they had to have wanted to be with each other at some point. When I was old enough to remember anything, it was already bad. There was always something wrong, and I could never help. I just wanted them to be happy. You tried to imagine your moms breaking up, and the very idea scared you, but Cove had to endure that for real. I'm sorry.
Don't worry about
It's okay. Despite that revelation, Cove is reassuringly at you. It's not like that anymore. Things are different now. I don't even really think about it. Again, the sorrow reasserted itself. When he continued, you could barely hear him. Though I guess it's pretty obvious I haven't forgotten either. You tried to smile for him. You went over and placed a hand on his shoulder. Let's comfort him. He stared at you, startled for a moment as you crossed the room to him, but he relaxed as you gently grabbed his shoulder. At least we have each other through the good and the bad, right, neighbor? Cove's eyes shined as his mouth pulled into a bent smile. It brought a smile to your own face. Yeah. When you finally let go, the two of you took a seat again, this time side by side on your bed. Today was a lot, huh? Yeah, it was. You sat there with a rare sense of camaraderie towards Cove. After everything today, you felt a sense of relief. For a while, you stayed like that. A comfortable quiet fell between you as the sun fell with it. The warming calm ended when Cove gasped sharply and spun, half expecting him to find him nursing an injury, but instead you found him staring straight ahead. What?
Oh my
I think
God.
my phone just vibrated. Well, you'd better find out if it did. Right. He patted his pocket, fumbling in panic, and yanked the phone out. The force of the action nearly catapulted the device out of his grip entirely, but he caught it just in time. His eyes honed in on the screen. It's Terry, thank God. She says she's sorry. He looked back at you, eyes wide and nervous, and his nerves started to fray once more.
Hi.
What should I say? I don't know. Give it a second, I need to think. Tell her to call us. Ask her what's going on. As she's talking about her, you climbed up. Ask what's going on. Okay. He flashed you a shaky smile as he began to type. You suspected that he had a similar thought himself, but wanted the reassurance of a second opinion. Co's phone buzzed nearly as soon as the message was sent. It's Terry again. She's talking to us. She asked about what Miranda said, but wait. You leaned in, watching the conversation unfold on Cove's screen. She's gonna actually call. Cove held his breath as you waited, though he wasn't good with people. He'd never been at ease managing conflict. His phone rang. Cove jammed the answer button. He switched the phone into speaker mode, allowing you to participate in the conversation. But despite his immediate reaction, his voice lacked the same resolve when he spoke. Hey. It was tentative, a white flag fluttering in the wind. Ari is here too. Hey, Terry.
Hey.
Hey, buddies. Terry's voice was barely recognizable without her usual quick patter energy.
Are you okay?
Are things okay? I don't know. Probably not. Cove tensed, his free hand coiling into an anxious fist. Can you talk to us about what happened? Don't you already know already? Miranda explained some of it, but it doesn't make sense to us. You heard Terry sigh over the phone as she unburdened herself. Pretty much I was at Randy's house. We decided to watch some movies she super liked and I'd never seen before. Turns out there's a lot of those. We watched the one, then another, and we were having so much fun. Each time one finished, she had another one to share with me. I didn't really think about the time. I only wanted to say yes to Randy and watch her movies. She spoke wistfully about her words, but her words were full of affection. It was Randy, you know. I wasn't thinking about my schedule or what time it was. Totally. Then I finally saw the time and oh no, it was way too late. I knew already I couldn't stay. She took a deep breath, her voice becoming softer when she resumed talking. I was so stressed out, I just couldn't deal with it. Miranda wanted to help. She kept coming up with ways to make it better, trying to figure out why I was so upset and stuff. I was trying to answer her questions and there were so many, but I couldn't really answer all of them. I didn't even know why some of her ideas didn't work for me. It made my head ache. I still hadn't the first problem, and Randy there trying to help, blasting all these questions and suggestions at me faster than I could even think. She gulped, audibly sniffling. I got frustrated and told her to just leave me alone, but then she wanted to talk about why I wanted that, and we just started having a fight in the kitchen, and it woke up Randy's dad. We told him how I wanted to go home, but my parents couldn't get me, so Mr. Eckert offered to do it. Problem solved? No, I mean, yes, kinda, but I accepted because I definitely couldn't stay then, not after throwing a racket and turning it into a big deal. But I felt awful and embarrassed. Why did I yell at Randy and hurt her feelings? It made her dad lose sleep by waking him up and having to drive me home. What do you say after that? I have no idea. I don't know where to start, and I don't want to make it worse by saying the wrong thing and fighting again. So I'm not talking. Terry, Randy isn't mad that you didn't want to stay over or that you fought. She just wanted to feel like you can talk to her. I mean, you can say whatever you want. She'll listen. Not talking to her at all is pretty much the only wrong way to go about it. Terry lamented mournfully on the other end of the line, but he had a point. Unless she faced Miranda again, there would be no resolution. You looked at Cove, hunched over at the phone, staring pensively into it and searching for a solution. This couldn't be solved with the other key party missing. But what if you brought them in? Your phone was still free. Suggest calling up Miranda? You rung Miranda with that. We have to ask first. I've got an idea. What if we called Miranda on my phone? Cove and I could make sure your conversation didn't fall off the rails. Cove brightened up, the concern furrow in his brow, which had taken root when Miranda first called Ease.
Well,
that could work. Terry, you up for it? She made a noise that wasn't a word, but nevertheless conveyed her hesitation and worry. But she brought it to a close with a decisive exhalation and as if pushing all negative thoughts from her body. All right, I'll do it. Cove nodded. Now that you'd received approval from everyone, you pulled out your phone and called Miranda. You set a speaker and waited for her to pick up. Luckily, she did.
Hi.
Hey, Ari. Her voice was still distant, as if her thoughts were somewhere else, but it was loud enough for your needs. Hi, you're on speaker. Terry's on speaker too, on Cove's phone. Oh. She paused while she digested this information. You watched the phone screen, hoping she wouldn't hang up as a
Really?
result. Oh, really? Yep, it's really me. Can you hear my voice all the way from your house to theirs and then mine? I can. You and Cove exchanged looks, waiting for the wall between them to break and wondering uh, who would be the one to do it. As the quiet dragged on, you caught Cove chewing his cheek. He must have weighed up the same question as you, whether to encourage the conversation along or leave Miranda and Terry to resolve it themselves. The answer came in form of sniff, followed by another from Cove's phone.
Sorry.
Sorry, Randy. I hope you still like me. What? You were the one acting as if you didn't like me. Her tone was defensive, no doubt, as a result of her wounds from last night still being raw.
What?
No way, everyone likes Randy. You're wonderful. Your eyes met Co's, and his phone was tilted towards you, capturing the call indirectly. You moved your phone closer to his, hoping that the signal was strong enough to convey every nuance of tone. Cove did likewise, bringing his cell right next to yours, even bumping against it as he shifted his grip. I didn't know what to say. That's the reason I wouldn't talk to you. If I had known the answer, I would have told you right away. Miranda murmured on the other end of the line. You didn't want to say anything I tried to do bothered you, and you could have told me you didn't know. Yeah, I think I was angry at myself. I did a dumb thing and didn't want help with it. I wanted to be mad and just deal with it myself. It made me keep doing dumb things. Oh. When she spoke again, her voice was quiet and tender and vulnerable as the words.
I'm sorry.
Staying up late watching stuff was all my fault. I had to find a way to fix it. That's what I thought anyway, but I should have given you space. I'm sorry for being pushy and sensitive. Hardly. Miranda Eckert having a flaw? Never heard of such a crazy thing. Miranda let out a ghost of a giggle, Cove clearing his throat. Maybe you should call each other now? Sorry.
Sure.
Can do. Thanks for giving me the kick in the butt to do this already. Mandy, I'm going to call you right now. Bye, Aryan Cove. She hung up after squeezing in a quick goodbye. Another quick goodbye, though not giving you or Cove room to respond in kind. Miranda laughed at the noise tinkling gently in the wind chimes in a summer breeze.
You're really
Thank you for
nice.
listening and helping. I'm going to hang up now so I can answer Terry's call. Bye. Bye and good luck. Bye, you got this. Miranda hung up, still chuckling softly as your call ended. The room felt emptier without the other voices in it. Cove expelled a sigh that crashed through the newly fallen silence. He dropped his arms to his sides, letting his head hang down like a puppet at rest. Thank God. They shouldn't have involved us. I'm so relieved it's okay. We're simply happy your friends made up. This day's events had drained you. We're content now that Cove seemed at ease again. I'm so relieved it's okay. Cove scratched his face, his expression cloudy. I think I need to find better ways of dealing with conflict because that was awful. We all could probably do better at that. I think you did okay given the circumstances. Yeah, think that would help. You didn't comment. I think we did okay. Cove meekly smiled as he rubbed his eyes, weariness creeping over them and mumbling his next words. We can talk about it another day. Conflict resolution methods? Huh? Oh no, forget it. Your eyebrows rose and then a light bulb went off in your head. Before Miranda called, didn't you say there was something you wanted to say? Cove's original visit had been thrown so off kilter that it was a struggle to wind your memory back to when he'd first turned up. Now you did, though. You remembered that he had been perky when he arrived this afternoon. Was it good news? Cove brushed his hand against his now folded arm shyly. Well, yeah, maybe I'm not exactly sure it counts as news or even good. It's what it is, and I'm happy about it, though. Come on, no more hints. You've got to tell me now. Cove flushed, drawing his arms even closer to his body. I actually wanted to let your family know as a whole, mostly your parents. It might be a little weird for it to be only us talking about it, but after everything that's happened, I guess I can. I'll bring it up to your moms another time. You watched him, wondering what he had to say that could be less awkward to talk about with the parents of your neighbor than the person who's your own age. But then again, your moms always had been fonder of Cove than you were. He shifted on his feet as if a different posture might give him the support he needed for the conversation. I didn't want to make a big deal, but I just know what my sexuality is now. Oh! His announcement caught you by surprise. Cove noticed your obvious confusion and held up a hand. A real subject change, huh? Yeah, this is why it was going to be more of a general thing. His eyes cast off to the side. Your moms are cool. Growing up with them around made it easier, more comfortable for me to think about that kind of thing. I didn't have to put it all together on my own because they were there, showing me that relationships weren't a set gender deal. And it made me feel it was okay to talk about topics like this with your family. Cove drew a breath and straightened up. I'm demisexual. You know, most of the time I don't really have those kinds of feelings, physical wants and stuff. It's only in some situations when I'm already really emotional and romantically connected to someone that I start to even think about anything sexual, and it's only with them. I hadn't heard the term until pretty recently, and it just made a lot of sense once I knew what it meant, and I had a word that fit how I felt.
Yeah.
And I'm pan-romantic because I've never had a preference for a specific gender or anything, so yeah, that makes sense. Cove looked down at the floor, being so open and direct about the matter that personal which you weren't sure he'd spent a long time trying to figure out seemed to be kind of weird for him. Despite that, there was a small, proud smile on his face, and when he looked up again, his gaze was steadfast. All this talk of Cove's actually made you reflect on your own. You had physical attraction in a general way. You had only seen physical attraction in specific cases. You didn't really have physical interest in other people, but you didn't think you could tell if you had interest in a person physically. Specific cases and situations. You had romantic attraction in a sinister way. You only seemed to feel romantic attraction in specific cases and situations. You really didn't have romantic interest in people. You didn't think you could tell if you had an interest. I am only in specific situations. Specifically, when it came to mind towards how you felt towards men, you found them attractive. You thought you'd be happy with one someday. You found them attractive, but hadn't thought about being with a guy. You weren't physically attracted, but you'd happy to have a romantic relationship with a guy. You weren't interested in guys. You generally weren't interested in guys, but there were specific exceptions. Um. That fits best. And how you felt towards women. Uh, yes, women. And how you felt towards NBs. You found them attractive, though. I am that person who I don't care. You'd already told Cove about your sexuality, but you hadn't told Cove any about your sexuality. You and Cove hadn't talked about it, but you were open, so you figured he knew. We're gonna share. Oh, well, since we're talking about it, I could tell you about me. Cove smiled sympathetically, his eyes crinkling slightly. You don't have to. I want to say it, but I don't want you to feel obligated to do the same thing. No, you don't get out of this that easily. You were teasing, of course. Cove was being genuinely considerate. Okay, I'll listen. You articulated to Cove how you experienced attraction and romance. Cove let a beat pass in case you had more to say. You didn't, so he tilted his head with likewise bent smile.
I get it.
I don't know if it makes sense to say something like that's cool, but I really think that's great for you. You smiled, knowing that he was doing his best to be encouraging. Of course it's cool. Thanks for understanding anyway. He merely smiled again. It felt good to know that the two of you could talk so easily about these matters. Cove closed his eyes. A contented smile slipped out of him as he stretched his arm overhead. You could tell that Cove felt like it had been an emotionally draining day that had now come to a close. Everything wrapped up neatly with a bow on top. You had some good talks with your friend and with each other. A lot of had been brought out into the light, and you'd come out of it not only knowing each other better, but yourself too. But there was still something that Cove didn't know, something that had gnawed at you many times over the years. You never told Cove about how you first met his dad. You'd always held back for him, unsure of how he would take the revelation. His dad seemed to have done the same, as Cove didn't seem to have heard it from Mr. Holden either. You decided the secret had hung over you long enough. Maybe tell him someday, but not today. You felt it didn't matter anymore. There was no need. Let's tell the man. It was time to tell Cove, but the deal his father proposed. You're ready today. Was the day to tell Cove the full story of how you'd come to know him. Cove? You hooked his attention with the way you spoke his name. There's something I'd like to talk to you about. Cove raised an eyebrow, but didn't say anything. He was listening. You took a deep breath and stated the situation plainly. You tried to handle it lightheartedly. You're still hesitant, showed your words cautiously. Hesitant. Way back when we first met, it was actually your dad I met first. When you'd run off, he was waiting outside the house to see if you'd come back. He didn't find you, not then, but he did notice me as I was walking home. Cove nodded, eyebrows still raised, and you could tell that he was trying to predict where this was going. You could also see he was failing. He was worried sick about you and desperate to help. That's why he offered me $20 to be your friend. Cove's eyes widened into huge circles and you uttered the final sentence. His mouth hung open, ready to speak, but no words followed. You stood still, giving him time to process this revelation. You watched his layers of subterfuge being ripped away as eyebrows rose higher on his forehead. He followed by a deepening frown. And then Cove burst into a roar of laughter. That's horrible. He tried to bribe you? And you were what, 8? Dad, why? Oh my god. Oh my god, this is going so much better than it does when you do it in step 1 and step 2. Cove was bent over with laughter, one arm supporting his sides. He covered his eyes with the other hand, hiding his tears of mirrors spouting in the corners. You laughed along with him, glad that you could finally share this ridiculous I can't pronounce that word, with him, and relieved that he wasn't upset by the secret. Eventually, your giggles wound down. Cove wiped the last of his tears from his eyes, still grinning as he took wheezing breaths. Wow. He shook his head. That's my dad, I guess. There's always another Clifford surprise waiting in the wings. But $20, huh? What a cheapskate. Considering how much time we spent together since I moved in, you were paid pennies on the hour. No, not even that much. Just 1 penny an hour. A fraction of a penny. Not even that. I got nothing, because I wasn't going to take money from a weird stranger I just met. Cove gave you a lopsided smile with a shake of his head.
Sorry,
you definitely got the short end of the stick. I hope you plan on making up for it. I'm just relieved you're not upset about it. It's okay. It was a really stressful spot to be put in. I hope you plan on making up for it. I'm just relieved you're not upset. I'm relieved he's not upset. Cove shrugged his shoulders, nodding sympathetically. Yeah, I can't exactly blame you for worrying over this. I was sensitive growing up, especially about things like that. He snorted with laughter. Were? You still are. Cove smirked, taking your jest in stride. I'm not as bad. I've made at least a little bit of progress. I mean, I'm taking this well. That proves it. So there. His eyes glinted at you playfully. He might as well have stuck his tongue out as he finished. You chuckled, wondering if that juxtaposition between him claiming to have grown it childish into the statement was deliberate for your amusement. Regardless, you were glad you could talk about this openly with Cove now, no longer fretting over how or when he might uncover the truth. You breathed a satisfied sigh of relief as the weight you'd been carrying from childhood was lifted from your shoulders. Cove shyly ran a hand down his arm and, gently smiling, lifted his features, and you knew he was glad to be where he was today. Thanks for telling me. I appreciate the honesty. He grinned slyly. And now I've got more ammo to tease Dad with. No problem.
Hey,
we should probably head downstairs soon if your moms are still wanting everybody to get together. Yeah, that's right. With a renewed spring in your step, you led the way out of your room. You got downstairs to find the others already assembled and waiting.
Hi.
Hello. Hey. Good to see you both.
Hey.
Hi there. We were trying to corral everyone into a group, but the two of you were already upstairs this whole time. Of course we were together. You paid Ari to stick with me, or did you forget? The statement was meaningless to your family, who looked to each other for answers in vain. Mr. Holden got the message loud and clear and seemed embarrassed. He chuckled nervously, rubbling the back of his neck, and then his hand froze in place.
Huh?
Wait, when did you figure that out? You never mentioned it growing up. Today. Just now. Ari told me. Mr. Holden's hand awkwardly slid off his neck as he stared at Cove, the answer catching him off guard. Out of the corner of your eye, you saw Mom mouthing a question at you. Everybody was waiting for an explanation. Similar to his son, Mr. Holden broke into laughter and turned in to address you, a hand laid over his chest. I can't believe my partner in crime betrayed me, and after all these years, I thought we had something. His voice was deliberately light, assuring you this was only a joke. He shook his head, throwing off the jest as he spoke seriously.
No worries.
I have to admit, I'm actually just amazed you kept it under your hat this long. It had to be done. You never should have had me keep it. It had to be done. I wanted to know why my dad kept it a secret all this time. Mr. Holden looked back at Cove's, lines forming on his forehead as wide as his eye signaled a wordless apology. Can we hear exactly what the secret is? The suspense is killing us.
Right.
All right. I'd better get everybody up to speed. He held his hands and palms out, pacifying his audience, or perhaps holding them up as a shield in advance. The first day I met Ari, I'd been worrying about Cove being alone for the summer, when there weren't a lot of kids around, and he wasn't exactly the best terms with me at the time. He glanced around at your family, engaging their response. I felt like this was my only shot, so I kind of offered them $20 to be friends with Cove, and added that they couldn't tell him anything about it. Liz gasped, and Ma was staring incredulously at Mr. Holden while Mom's eyebrows had retreated to her hairline. You and Cove, already knowing the story, were the only ones unaffected. But after a while, I really did honestly forget it even happened. He raised his hand higher, now level with his shoulders. Not a bad idea, you thought. If Mom felt inclined to throw a cushion at him, he'd probably manage to block it in time. I know it's bad, but I've had so many grand ideas over the years, it's hard to keep track of them all. Cove smiled, placing his hand on his hip, shaking his head at his father's antics.
Seriously?
I can't believe you, though also I totally can. Your moms were less indulgent. The shock had ebbed away to displeasure. Mom's foot was tapping rapidly as she frowned, and the next-door neighbor, well, Ma had her arms crossed over her chest at first. I'm sorry, or I'm sorry to your parents, too. It was way out of bounds. Okay, I accept your apology. Your moms gave each other that look when they seemed to communicate with eyes alone. All right, well, that's that then. It won't happen again.
Absolutely.
It definitely won't.
All right.
Good. It was a little surprising that they were letting him off the hook, but on the other hand, it was a long time ago, and you weren't sure your moms remembered those painful days of Cove's arrival too. Mr. Holden wasn't a potentially bad influence anymore, so a lecture would be pretty moot. Instead, your mom gave him a lenient smile.
In that case?
Now that that's settled, why don't we find something to do? Nods of agreement cascaded through the group in a couple waves, and the suggestion. Mr. Holden's shoulders slumped with a release of tension. He brought his hands down, tucking them away in his pockets. The two families spent the rest of the afternoon together, chatting and catching up. Though you had accepted Mr. Holden's apology, Cove caught up for the last time by pitching the odd jab at his dad. Your mom didn't seem amused. The news was still too fresh, but you enjoyed finally being able to laugh about it freely. You truly relaxed knowing that there was no longer any secret between the two families. You felt freed, yet simultaneously more together than you had before. Aw man, we got one left, guys. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, remember to hit like and subscribe. That way you can come back to see the final one for step 3, and then we basically go into the epilogue. And if you've made it this far, I'm pretty sure you want to see that. So, without further ado, I hope you have a good day. I'll see y'all next time. Bye-bye.